Hello, builders, parents, and collectors. On this episode of the Creation Evaluation Station, I'll be evaluating this. It's a non-Lego building block system. Works with Lego. Yes, Lego purists, it works with Lego and you'll never want to touch it, but we are going to look at it anyways. It's part of the Mount Up series by BlockTech, and I'm not really too familiar with this. I picked it up at Five Below. I looked online, and I've seen other sets by BlockTech at Five Below. It tends to be like their brand, although I've looked online and some other stores and stuff do carry this stuff as well. Now, I looked up BlockTech trying to find out what the company is. I haven't heard too much about it. You know, it's not a big building construction company. Big doesn't seem to be a big competitor to Lego or, you know, Mega Bloks or whatever like Mega Bloks. Don't bother looking it up. BlockTech, I mean, you can find out more about it, but you look up BlockTech, you get a lot of blockchain websites and companies and stuff. That's not what you're looking for. No, I did find out information. It is actually a brand for the RMS International company, and they make different products, toys, seasonal stuff like that, Christmas, Halloween. So that's all there is about the company. I could really dig up too much. Now, there are 4 different sets. I picked this one because I think it's the most interesting. And if you look at the back, you can see the others. There's even a Chaos Dragon. And quite frankly, I didn't like the looks of it. You'd think I would go for that, but I didn't. There's Chaos Dragon, this Saber-Tooth Tiger, and this Spider guy. And I got the wolf here, which I think is the best looking one. But there's the back of it as well. Now, details for this actual set. It's for ages 8 and up. It has 224 pieces. And I got it at Five Below, so as you can guess, it costs $5. It's in a really big box, but you shake it, you feel how light it is. It feels like it's only filled up to about here. A little bit bigger than a poly bag, although just as expensive as a Lego poly bag. So at least you're not paying Lego premium prices for this. We will check it out, see how it adds up to Lego. It's got some kind of minifigure. We'll compare it to Lego minis as well. Some of these weapons look comparable to Lego that they show here on the front. But let's go open her up and see what's inside. So we've opened up the backs here, and this is what we have. We have 5 different bags. One's simply got a sprue with weapons on it, and here is the instructions, which I am not looking thrilled to, since they are so very, very, very small. You can see here, there's my hand. Yeah, little tiny instructions. And I have to get magnifying glass out to do this. But we will check them out. I'm going to open up all these bags. They aren't numbered or anything, so I'll just open them all up and we'll take a closer look at the pieces next. So I've opened up everything here. We got a couple weapons that were not on the sprue over here. They were just floating in some of the bags. I took off a couple of weapons just to see how well they popped off, and they don't have too much like flak sticking off them. I didn't see any actually, and they came off pretty easy. I still gotta take the other two off, but I thought I'd test that out. And although I have not seen, put all this together, I stuck two 2x2 plates together, and they stick together pretty, really well actually. Probably some, almost I would say better than some Legos. But we gotta put the whole thing together and check out everything first. So, I'm gonna jump to any conclusions with just that. We also have the parts here for the figure. Now, this helmet piece I already don't like, as you can flip it over here, and you can see it's really thin. I'm squeezing it a little bit, but the piece probably is okay. It's not like it's a piece that's gonna receive a lot of stress when building, so it's just gonna sit on the top of the character's head. And we'll look closer at that figure a little bit later, but I'm just kind of commenting on the pieces overall here. A lot of standard Lego parts. Looks like, we got like mixel joints and stuff, which kind of expected for the arms and legs of this critter. Yeah, let's go put this together and see how it all adds up. So we have our one figure for this mount up set, and I brought in a Lego figure here, Zane here, just for some comparison. And as far as actual height, they're almost about the same height, considering the helmet piece in here, but you can obviously see down here lower that the legs are much longer, and so is that torso. I kind of like the shape of the torso. I mean, it gives him more of a heroic, wide shoulder look to him. Now, he's got some really nice printing actually on his chest here. Very detailed anyways. And looks all around rather nice. So does the head. Now, I don't really like the color of this helmet thing he's got going on here. I don't know why such a weird yellow color. It's kind of cool. Zane was the first one I picked up, but they're both kind of white ice, except that's a golden version of Zane. But they both have their ice, seem to be icy and whatever. But let's just put Zane aside for now, because he's not too important. After a quick comparison, look closer at this guy. Now, this guy has got pretty much the same articulation as our regular figures here, except the joints are in slightly different areas. He's got shoulders that rotate up and down, just like your Lego figure. But instead of hand rotation, he actually rotates at the lower arm, so he doesn't have a wrist, but it ends up being about the same for movement. And there's the head. Well, the head rotates, but it's really stiff, and it kind of wants to pop off the... As you can see, I've messed up his helmet trying to rotate him. And the helmet comes along. It's really stiff too. But there, we got him fixed again. And he's also got leg joints. These are rather stiff, especially when you compare them to Lego minifigures. And as you see, I ended up popping them off more. Now, with more use, they probably will get looser, but yeah, they're pretty tight. And on top of that, this is the worst. This figure is probably the worst thing about this whole set. The pattern's nice, but assembling this is not that easy. Of course, these parts are kind of hard when you got big man fingers like mine. But for kids, it might probably a little bit easier. No, the worst part is these legs. You actually have to assemble these completely. Not, Lego, usually they come like this and you just pop them in the body. But no, this piece here has to be fully assembled. And it comes in 3 parts, 2 legs, and the torso part. And this is the hardest thing to put together probably in this whole entire set, because you have the leg here. I'm not going to tear it apart, I don't even know if I could get it apart very well, but there's a little peg on both sides of this torso piece, one pointing each direction, and that goes into a hole in the leg, and it is very stiff. It's one reason why these legs are so stiff. But it does not go in very easy at all. And the legs are probably the worst thing of all this figure. Now, as you saw here, he stands well. He sticks on to a Lego, regular studs. Really easy. But it's got owl back legs, and you would think that would make him be able to sit on studs. And yeah, he can, but it's a very stiff. And the problem is you're trying to put this on the back of the tiger, and it does not like to sit very well. And the pieces aren't very flush on him. Actually, it's because of the way it's built. We'll take a closer look at that in a little bit. But they can sit down, but it's very, very tight fit. Those studs back there for some reason. Tight fitting sometimes is a good thing, sometimes is a bad thing. In this case, I think it's a bit of a bad thing. But moving from there, we're also going to look at this guy's accessories. I usually don't dwell too much on the accessories of the Lego figures, but this is not Lego, and we need to take a close look at all of it. He's got a sword here in his hand, nothing amazing. They do fit. All the equipment does fit in regular Lego figures' hands if you so desire. May not be your best of interest because, there are those Lego purists out there, and I don't disagree with them. I am somewhat of a purist, but we have all these different weapons here, and we have one-handed, two-headed axe. Looks really cool. We have this really big, almost like a pirate sword type thing going on here, and we have this, which I think this is really neat. It is a bow and arrow, but it is also designed with a peg here, so you could put it in the hand and use it like a crossbow. Lego's got two different pieces for that, and this one utilizes one piece for both things. And yeah, there is hand grips here, so you could use it like a regular bow and arrow as well. I find that kind of interesting, and they could hold it in one hand and still use this other like hand grip, like to make it look like they're pulling back at the arrow. So that was, I thought, an interesting piece. There's definitely some interesting things in this set that even Lego could maybe learn from. I don't know, if this is really necessary. Having two separate pieces like Lego does is fine as well, because this doesn't really look like a crossbow, but it can be held like a crossbow. Meanwhile, Lego's crossbow looks more like a crossbow than it does a regular bow. Next up, we have this, which looks very much like the classic lance from Lego. And this is not the only set that has, or the only piece that looks like a classic piece. I don't see them too much. It was a lance. You can hold it here or here at the base. You can actually hold the main thing here. Oftentimes you would see these with banners on them as well, hanging straight up like this, or even out with banners hanging down as well. This is a great piece for certain things. Definitely more for the castle stuff, and you don't see this too much anymore. And along with another part that you don't see too much is the big executioner's axe, and this looks very much like the classic one. I'd have to fish mine out, but even still, these are kind of nice pieces to have. So you know, if you want some different weapons for your Ninjago characters or whatever, you can have them. It's these are more classic castle stuff that you don't see much nowadays. His sword is definitely not the classic style. It's not a bad looking sword, but I mean, it's okay. But it's definitely not the same as the classic ones. But that's pretty much it for that. I thought those weapons were kind of interesting. But yeah, this figure is probably the worst part. He doesn't look too bad, except he's a little off, you know, size-wise. Well, I don't know if that's a bad thing. He's almost, I think, maybe a little bit more in scale to actual humans than your regular Lego figure. But, yeah, he's not exactly fitting in with the Lego universe. We've got our Wolfie guy here put all together, and I must say this is interesting. They're most of the pieces fit good together. The only there's some weak spots on here, which I'll talk about in a moment, but it isn't because the pieces are poorly designed or anything like that. And as you can see, we got him up standing on two hind legs, which is kind of cool. He's rearing up. He holds himself pretty good in that position. Yeah, let's look at his joints and take a closer look here. Now these are mixel joints, and you see here with his tail. They're complete ball and socket joints, so there's plenty of round motion there. Same goes for the legs. These are all ball and socket joints, basically mixel joints, except I call it mixel joints. They're, you know, not really mixels. These aren't even Legos. But even at the hips here. But there are some limitations, like there's some lack of movement here in the what would be the knee, but that's okay because you only need the joint really to go one way. Same with the feet, although there is a little bit more ankle maneuvering here. And same goes for the front legs. Shoulder is on a ball and socket. The elbow joint on a ball and socket, and the what would be the wrist, the bottom of the foot, would be on a ball and socket joint. Then once again, we get to the head, and the neck here is a ball and socket joint. And listen, look at this Lego. Look at this. If you're watching, that's blue. That's blue. Those are mixel joints, opposed to the gray ones out here. And all the gray ones out here can work fine. If this was gray, it would not look good. They made blue ones. Lego, make other colored mixel joints, please. Your competitors, sort of. These aren't even really competitors. These are cheap toys. Can make colored mixel joints. Maybe you could too, please. Now, his jaw opens and closes. This is not a mixel joint. This is a clip joint, essentially. I'm not sure why they used a red clip for the tongue. It kind of makes things a little awkward. Now, the head here is an interesting design, and I'll talk more about that later, but it looks pretty good. I think it could have been made just a little bit more sturdier, but everything seems pretty sturdy. A little bit of rough play might break some things loose. And you gotta be careful building because it's a little fragile. Once you get everything together, it's pretty sturdy. And there's some weird gaps, like right here. You can see where the four, and those could easily, I think, easily be fixed if you. I don't know if you could put just a single tile in there, or a brick in, a plate in there. Definitely, probably in there. And then you just see from the top side, there's gaps on both sides. and that's where I feel like it's fragile, but there's enough grip on the rest of it that it seems to hold in place. If you really press hard on these sides, it would probably pop loose. But yeah, I think 1x2 or something like that in both sides would definitely keep that secure. This you might not be able to fix. So he's very posable, and one problem I do have is to get the box here. You can see here the guy's writing on his neck. Well, that's photoshopped. That is absolutely impossible to do. There's no way to get him up there. There's nothing. It even looks like his hand is holding on to him. Like, there's no way that can happen. I mean, you can't make the legs. The legs are only on a certain one. They aren't in like a ball joint, so he can't pull his leg away. There's nothing here to hold onto for his hands. And yeah, he has to sit on his back like that. So that's a bit false advertising there with the packaging. I mean, he does write on there, but not like that. And I think that's all I want to show here. We're going to talk a lot more about this when we get back to the desk. But yeah, he's not terrible, but we'll talk more later. We're back here at the desk. Give this final eval, my final thoughts as well. Actually, first, my final thoughts, because I got a little bit to explain before I move into this. Now, this is not Lego. This is isn't even a really name brand, big name brand, although I think it's an up-and-coming brand. It's a part of a bigger toy company. So, you know, it may move up the ladder in its, not really its quality. I think the quality is somewhat here already, but in its appeal and knowledge to most people, especially people into this stuff, model building and constructions kits. But because it isn't, you know, even I'm not familiar, this is the first of this type brand that I put together. We are going to start with a lower score. Like, I'm going to have a baseline score of a 5. Usually with Lego, I start off with more of a 7 and 8 and work from there. I mean, you can go lower than that if the set was really bad. But this is starting off at a 5. Well, at least that's where I was starting it at. After putting it all together, I'm going to give it a point because it's going to start off at 6 because I haven't had any real problems with the pieces. They stick together well. There's no issues with that. If there are issues with that, we give it a 5. We might even start the floor lower than 5 if it was really bad. But we start in the middle with 5. But it's going to start with a 6. So 6 is kind of the lowest grade. Unless, you know, there's something really bad, like really bad design construction wise, then it might get lower than that. But that's going to be the mid standard. Is we're going to start with 6. So yeah, that's that for now. Let's move into the final evaluation. Oh yeah, overall thoughts. It's okay for what it is. I'm not too big on the minifigure. Yeah, I'd rather something that fits more in with Lego. Like there are other, well, Mega Bloks stuff doesn't really fit in, but the Creo figures kind of fit in a little bit, and there are other construction sets. There's, I can't remember the brand name of it, but they have other figures. Older Mega Bloks figures did kind of fit in along with the Legos. This thing really doesn't. Interesting, but it's probably the weakest part of this set. Overall, though, it's not too bad. I did pick out, like I said, the best one I thought. There's 4 others. There's a spider, there's a saber-toothed cat, and then there's a dragon. Dragon, as much as I love dragons, it didn't really look that good. The spider may be okay. I don't know. Spiders are kind of creepy looking anyway, so it kind of makes up for any, you know, errors that you're not going to notice. I would have had to bought it and put together, but I like the look of this guy, so I put guy in. And the saber-tooth tiger, I didn't really like the head design on it, but that's that. Those, you know, putting them together, I might have had different opinion on them. I'm not going to go get all these and go through them all. I just wanted to do a sampling and check them out. And I think, you know, part of it is to see their quality, and the quality is here. The quality is, for the most part, here. I haven't seen any. Like, some of the pieces actually stick better than sometimes than Lego does. You might have problems pulling it apart more than anything. But yeah, the quality is good enough. Whether it's equal to Lego is another story. The minifigure obviously needs to redesign some work, and I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But yeah, those are my overall thoughts. Let's get on with the final eval. Now, as far as appearance, like I said, I think this looks great. The figure itself is the worst. I say great, but it looks good. I like the sculpt on the head. This is supposed to be a wolf, though, and if we turn around to the other end, does this look like a wolf's tail to you? Yeah, this is probably the weakest part with the appearance. Moving on to the body, which the body is very much just a cylinder ship shape type thing, and we'll talk more about that in the build, in the design and stuff. But yeah, this is overall, this looks more like they built like, I have a feeling this is the same build as the saber-tooth tiger, just with a different head on it. And maybe different, obviously different colors because that's red, but I mean, even the way the colors are separated might be done a little bit differently for a different look, but the way the pieces go together, I think, is the same as the saber-tooth tiger. Don't quote me on that. I don't have it, and the pictures do not show everything, so it's really hard to tell. But yeah, this doesn't look like a wolf's tail. This just doesn't look that great, and the overall shape of the body is meh. That doesn't take away from everything. It still has a nice appeal. The colors look nice. The design on the head looks pretty good, I think. And even this figure, you know, it's the weakest part, it doesn't look bad itself. So it's okay. Its appearance was okay, and I gave it a 7. You know, up a little bit from just standard. I think they, you know, they tried and put some work into it. Now, as far as function, everything works for the most part. It's mostly just the hinges, you know. That's the only thing that works here. There's nothing super fancy, and they're all basically mixel joints. They hold up fine. The head, you know, does have an open and shut jaw, which is nice. I don't get the weird tongue piece. I think that could have just used a regular red piece in there. The only small problem is, and it's also related with techniques, which we'll talk about, is there's a weak spot in the back of those feet in the way it's designed, and they can break off if you move it just wrong, or if it's had a little too much stress on it. So overall, it's pretty good. And the figure really does function okay. The head's a bit stiff. Some of the joints are really stiff. I think they'll loosen up as you play with it, as it gets played with more. I ended up giving the function also a 7. It's okay. It's nothing amazing. Now, fun. The build here, it was nothing amazing. It wasn't like lots of fun. Some interesting builds. Although the head was kind of interesting. So, but there was nothing terrible. It wasn't boring. It wasn't boring to build. It was kind of fun seeing how it came together. but not too much. Like, it was nothing exciting when I built it. And overall, the play value here is good. You got a posable cat that you could do things with. You know, if you had another one, you'd probably sit there, have your kids would be fighting with them or doing something. Now, there's no, like, really good play standalone with this set. You just got a guy riding on his back. I suppose you could have them fight each other. Guy's got plenty of weapons, even some big ones that could be used to fight a bigger creature. So, you know, it's a pretty fun set. You know, it may not be the most amazing set in the world, but there's fun to be had here. And I gave it an 8. I gave fun an 8. Now, moving on to techniques. Now, there's nothing super amazing here. The body is hollow. It is built with the, trying to save a little bit of the space and bricks and weight. Not space exactly, but weight and bricks. The legs and stuff, it's for the most part, it's a very smooth build. I think, well, even the head's pretty good about it. It's a smooth build design, which I appreciate that. As I said before, it's never necessary. There are some studs here. Of course, there's some on the back, so you can do something with it with your figure here. But other than that, it's pretty smooth and it looks nice. But there are some poor techniques. I mentioned earlier the weak spot in the back, here on the back of the foot. And it could be easily fixed with building it a certain way. But that weak spot is still there, and it has to do with how it was built. The head, I thought was going to be worse than it was. I mean, it looks good, but when I was building it, some of the way it was built was interesting. Like, there are gaps. If you look down through the head, you look directly across through the mouth, you'll see gaps. That being said, it's still fairly sturdy. Not saying if you put enough pressure on things, they won't break. They probably will pop off. Not break, but, you know, pop off. Some of that could have been fixed, and easily with a few pieces. And, I don't know why they did it that way. I think it would still look the same if they had done things differently. So as far as technique, we're gonna give it a 6. It's, you know, there is some poor things here that they did. It's not all bad. Some of it's good. You said the nice smooth build, the hollow body, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, again. Technique got a 6. So very mid-level. Take all that, average it up, divide by 4, and you get a 7. So it's not too bad. You know, it's not up there with a Lego set, but it's definitely decent. Now, as far as price, this thing gets insane. It's Five Below product. It was only $5. It has 229 pieces, and this gives you a price per part ratio price per part of 2 cents. That's it. Only 2 cents per piece, which that's really cheap and a lot cheaper than Lego. This set would have been $15, $20. Just looking at it, I would say it's got maybe about $15 worth of stuff here. 10, 15. But yeah, you're talking a $20 Lego set if this was Lego. So as far as price is going, I was trying to debate whether it's good or excellent. And I stuck with excellent because it is a really good price. And the set is not terrible. It's fun. It has its weaknesses. And you know, it doesn't have the design quality that Lego has, but it's not terrible either, not by a long shot. So yeah, I ended up giving it an E for excellent. So that brings our final eval score, of course, to a 7E. So, you know, this set's not for everybody. Lego purists aren't going to even want to look at it. Collectors aren't going to want to look at it. But I think it's really fun for kids. It's enjoyable enough build, and it's, you know, lots of fun for kids to play with. So it's good in that aspect. And if you're not an absolute Lego purist, you also get a nice weapons pack for your minifigures. These will work with regular minifigures. The worst part of this, as far as kids are concerned, is assembling these legs, and these should be already pre-assembled just like the Lego minifigures are. That was the worst part of this whole building experience, was putting those legs on. I mean, I got them on okay, but they're really, really tough. Maybe a few hints in the instructions would help. Actually, the instructions didn't even show how to put the guy together. So that's also kind of a bit of a negative. And another thing with the instructions, they're very small. I actually took pictures of it with my phone so I could zoom in on it a little bit. That may not bother you, bothered me a little bit. I don't like really tiny instructions, although the color separate, it's not as bad as some I've put together, where you got really tiny instructions and then you have colors that are very similar to what no, there, and you can't tell what color they are. But yeah, the set's not for everybody, but I think it has its place. It's a decent value. If you're a builder, but you know, you're not a Lego purist, you got these extra parts here. This is interesting color, and I'm not sure if it actually matches with any of the Lego colors. It's blue, but it's just kind of looks like it has a slight bit of aqua to it, or not aqua, a little bit of green, like a aqua green or something to it. It's a nice color, and I like the color scheme here. But yeah, so tell me what you guys think of this. It's, you know, pretty much a no-name brand, but it's cheap and it can be fun. So yeah, so if you enjoyed this, please give the video a like, and of course, if you haven't yet, subscribe. Also, you know, hit the notification button so you're notified when new videos are out. I also have a Patreon if you want to check that out. It's small right now. I'm going to add more things to it eventually. And don't forget to comment down below what you guys think, and share with others. So that's it for me here at the Creation Valuation Station, reminding you that your creativity is key.